The girl in the woods. Leaves crunching under my feet, cool breezes, the aroma of nearby neighbors, burning leaves in the distance, just wafting through the crisp fall air. Fall is my absolute favorite time of the year. I think my most favorite part of all is the way the brightly colored leaves in the trees contrast against the gray skies. The autumn months in Pennsylvania are just beautiful. I've grown to really appreciate the beauty of nature and all it has to offer. The woods are old. They have stories to tell. Don't be fooled, though, by all the beauty around you in the woods. Nature can be both cruel and kind, so the woods are tinged with sadness amongst the beauty. This is what brings me to a story about a particular walk in the woods that I took that still chills me to the bone. I'd like to share it with you now. My name is Wilhelmina, Mina for short. I've lived in this part of Pennsylvania my whole life, grown up in and around these woods. I take daily walks in the woods behind my home. I really enjoy being one-on-one with the woods and hearing nothing but the sounds of nature all around me. On this day, on this particular walk, I kept hearing what I thought were little footsteps not far behind me. I shrugged it off, thinking it was just a little critter scurrying by. But every time I continued walking, the footsteps continued as well. When I stopped, they stopped. Each time I stopped and spun around to look, there was nothing there. I decided to turn around and start slowly walking back the way I came, hoping to find the source of the footsteps. I stood still until I heard the sounds again. I went a little off the path and continued listening for the leafy footsteps. The noise stopped when I approached a giant old oak tree. I'm inching up to the massive tree trunk and start circling around, and all of a sudden, all I hear is, "Boo!" I must admit, I about shot myself at that moment. Suddenly, this adorable little girl pops out from behind the tree. She looked to be about 7 or 8 years old. She's all decked out in a vintage-looking dress, Mary Jane shoes, and one of those flimsy masks you could buy at the 5 and dime back in the day. Hers was a bunny mask, strapped to her face by an elastic string in the back. Kind of creepy, really. "Did I scare you?" She giggles. "Yes, you gave me quite the fright, little miss." She asked me what I was doing out here alone in the woods. I told her I was just starting out my evening walk. She asked if she could join me. I replied, "Of course you can, but won't your parents worry?" She said, "Just for a little bit, and I'll come right back home." After a little hesitation, I agreed to let her tag along. So along we went, back up onto the leafy trail through the woods. As we started walking, I introduced myself. "My name is Mina. What's your name, sweetie?" "Mina. That's a pretty name. My name is Susie." "It's a pleasure to meet you, Miss Susie. So, I see that you're very excited for Halloween, huh? You're wearing your costume a whole day early. Though I can't blame you. I love Halloween too." Susie paused for a second, staring at me blankly, tilting her head and said, "I never take it off, silly." "Yes, I just love Halloween, Mina." We walked and skipped along, just chatting and having a good time, until I realized the sun was setting rather quickly. I suggested we head back before her parents started to worry, and I didn't want to get stuck in the woods at night. Just as we turned to head back, Susie gave me the pouty lip, out from under her bunny mask. I asked her what was wrong. She said, "Mina, could we walk together again tomorrow? I don't have any friends here. It's lonely. I had so much fun with you today." I told her of course we could. I reminded her, though, that Halloween and trick-or-treat were tomorrow, so we would have to start our walk early so that she wasn't late to go out trick-or-treating. She looked at me through the eye holes of the bunny mask with those pretty hazel eyes and said the most chilling thing. I have plenty of time, Mina. Endless amounts of time here. I won't be late. I gave her a puzzled look, but soon brushed it off as just the quirky things kids say sometimes. We then continued our walk back until the big giant oak tree came into view again. That's where I met Susie. That's also how I know I'm getting close to home after my walks. Well, this is where we part ways, my new friend. Now hop along home safely. It's not hard to get lost in these woods, so hurry, okay? Susie replied in a somber tone. I know these woods all too well, Mina. No need to worry about me. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, Susie. I'll see you right here, a little earlier tomorrow. I watched as Susie happily skipped away, her tousled brown hair just bouncing around and blowing in the breeze. A faint, "See you tomorrow, Mina," could be heard faintly in the distance. The elastic from the mask all tangled in her hair. How painful that must be, I thought. I laughed it off and made my way out of the woods and back home just before dark. The next morning I woke up and remembered it was Halloween. I still get excited like a child when it comes to Halloween. I always carve multiple pumpkins, buy lots and lots of candy to pass out, and decorate my house inside and out weeks before Halloween. After waking up, getting ready, having my morning coffee, I put the final touches on all of the decorations for this evening. Trick or treat and my walk with Susie were still several hours away, so I decided to hop in the car and run to a local store to put together a little Halloween gift for my new friend Susie. I browsed the Halloween aisles for something I thought she would like. I decided to get one of those orange jack-o'-lantern buckets with the handle. I got some things to fill it up, such as a small flashlight, a glow stick necklace, a cute stuffed bat, and a few kinds of candy. I got home with all the stuff and stuffed the jack-o'-lantern bucket with all of the goodies and a Halloween card tucked inside that said, "Happy Halloween, Susie. I hope you get all the best candy this year. Sincerely, your friend Mina." When it was just about time to head out for my walk, I put on my leggings, walking shoes, ghost face socks, my favorite Michael Myers hoodie, and grabbed Susie's gift and headed out the back door, up the back hill, and into my woods. I started out at a steady pace as not to waste any of Susie's trick-or-treat time later. I made my way up onto the trail, heading deep into the woods. The large oak tree finally came into view. I was out of breath, but kept pushing along. Susie came into view. I still remember how minuscule she looked, standing next to that enormous tree. As I got closer and closer, I could see her excitement building. She was hopping in place, all excited and waving at me. Her joy just made my heart melt. "Happy Halloween, Susie! I brought you a little something." I extended my arm out, revealing her gift. I could see her eyes light up through the eye holes of the bunny mask. She all but snatched my hand off, accepting her gift. "Oh, thank you, Mina." "You're welcome, Susie. Use your flashlight and glow necklace while you trick-or-treat tonight, okay? I want you to stay safe." Susie giggles and responds, "Okay, Mina, I will." "Now let's get our walk underway so that you're not late for trick-or-treating later," I said. So off we went, back up into the beautiful leafy woodsy path. "Hey, Susie, Are your parents okay with you going for walks with me? I wouldn't mind meeting them so that they know you're safe with me. Susie responds, Oh, Mina, you worry too much. My parents worry too much too, but they don't have to worry anymore. Again, her response gave me chills and made the hairs stand up on my neck. What did she mean, anymore? What did that mean? But again, I brushed it off and we continued chatting, walking, skipping, and snacking on the candy from her bucket. A half an hour went by, and I realized we were approaching my turnaround point. I've never gone beyond this part of the woods. No particular reason why. It just always felt like I should stop at that point, for some reason, so I just always have. That area of the trail doesn't feel as welcoming and pretty as the previous part of my trail. It feels sad, dreary, scary even sometimes. Susie, it's time for us to turn around and head back. I'm unfamiliar with what's up ahead, and you have an evening full of trick-or-treating and candy ahead of you. Let's get you back. Susie replies saying, Okay, Mina. But hey, are you up for a Halloween adventure in the woods before you go home? I looked at her inquisitively and asked her, Sounds interesting. What did you have in mind for me? I have to walk you back, though, so I don't think I have time today. She responds saying, Mina, I've told you. I know these woods all too well. I can get myself back home before dark. I reluctantly agreed and asked her what adventure she had in mind. She said, Well, just up there a little further up the path, you'll see a big, beautiful weeping willow tree. Just off the trail to the right. It's impossible to miss it. Walk straight over to the tree. Now, here's the funnest part, Mina. You have to go through the long, wispy branches of the willow tree. Susie continues. Walk through the branches, past the trunk, and make your way through the other side of the droopy branches to the outside. You will see a very old path in front of you. Be careful, though. It's overgrown and a little bit dangerous. You can't miss it, though. Just keep following the path to the top of the hill, into the clearing. There's a tree there that you can't miss. I think you'll be surprised by what you find, Mina. I raised my eyebrows in curiosity and said, Thanks, Susie. You know what? I think I will check it out really quick before it gets dark. Are you absolutely certain you can get home from here on your own? Susie lifts her little hand, grasps the chin of her bunny mask, slides it up just enough to show me a big grin. She then says, Mina, thank you for walking with me, and thank you for being my friend. I loved my gift, too. I will get back home by my own, okay? I need to get home and get ready to go trick-or-treating. I hope you like what you find on your adventure, Mina, Susie said with a grin. I gave her a big smile and thanked her for the adventure I was about to go on. I wished her happy Halloween again and told her that I hoped to see her soon for another walk together. I then said to Susie, Okay, little bunny rabbit, it's time to hop that cottontail home before you're late. I had so much fun with you. Can we walk again tomorrow so that I can hear all about the piles of candy you got? This was the first time Susie seemed extremely melancholic since I met her. Her sweet grin faded slowly. She slid her mask down back in place and said to me, I really would have enjoyed that, Mina. I'm sorry, but I can't. I'll never forget you, Mina. She hung her little rabbit face and turned to leave. She looked back over her shoulder and said something I will never forget. Susie looked at me over her shoulder and said, They couldn't find me. They just couldn't find me. I had to find my way back home by myself." Before I could respond, she was already skipping away, jack-o'-lantern bucket swinging back and forth. I watched her until she skipped and hopped out of sight. I was left so puzzled. What did she mean by that? I have to admit, I had goosebumps as she skipped and hopped away. I paused for a moment and then turned to face the trail ahead of me. I continued up the path as Susie instructed. I knew the sun was setting fast, so I was jogging at this point. I kept at a steady pace until I saw the beautiful weeping willow that Susie told me to look out for. She was right. You couldn't miss it. I cut off the trail to the right and didn't stop until I reached the willow. I lifted my hands and separated the lush, weepy, low-hanging branches and ducked my head inside. The branches closed shut behind me as I made my way through the large, wise, old weeping willow tree, clear to the other side and out. I poked my head out to see the exact trail Susie said I would see. I stepped out from under the willow tree and headed over to the old trail. The path was so overgrown, mossy and narrowed. I carefully but swiftly followed the mossy trail and then uphill for quite a while to a clearing at the top of the mossy rocky hill, just like Susie said. I made it to the top of the hill and was mesmerized by the size and beauty of the huge old red maple tree that stood before me. It stood out so much in this empty meadow. The trunk of that magnificent tree was massive. I stood underneath its canopy of blood-red leaves and looked up, marveling at the old branches twisting their way upwards to the sky, producing those beautiful red leaves, just swirling around in the autumn breeze, the sun catching them just right and lighting them up. It was so enchanting to see. I approached the trunk and placed my hand on its bark. I then made my way around the massive base, walking around, sliding my hand along the deep ridges in the old bark. As I just about made a full circle around the trunk of the tree, something caught my eye that I hadn't noticed before. It looked like cement peeking out from years' worth of leaves and earth. It looked unnatural and out of place. My morbid curiosity got the best of me, so I then knelt down and pulled my hoodie sleeves over my hands and started clearing away all of the leaves and dirt so that I could see what was underneath. What I revealed was a headstone. A headstone in the middle of the woods? Intrigued, I used my sleeve to clear all the dirt off the front of the headstone to see what it said. It was so old and weathered. The sun was setting fast, so it was so hard to make out what the headstone said. Suddenly, a gust of chilly fall wind made the branches of the maple tree sway in such a way that the last rays of sun from the day shone upon that headstone, illuminating it just enough to read. What I saw made my eyes widen, my jaw drop, and every hair on my entire body stood erect. The old headstone at the base of that maple tree, in the middle of those woods, read as follows: "Here lies Susie Osborne, our little bunny rabbit, 9/18/1900 to 10/31/1907. My eyes immediately flooded with hot tears. I crumbled to my knees and fell back, head between my knees, just trying to gather what I had just read. There's no way that's my Susie, I thought. No way. I had to collect myself, though, because it was nearly dark out and I needed to get home fast. I took a few deep breaths, told myself to be strong, and I got up and started heading back the way I came. With Susie and so many questions and a lot of fear on my mind, I hurried back down the hill, nearly falling several times, made my way back through the willow tree and back up onto my trail. I was at a full sprint at that point, from the adrenaline rush and fear. I had so many questions. Was I assuming things? There's no way that's the same Susie. I'll see her tomorrow, and this will all just be a creepy coincidence, I told myself. I kept up that sprint until I realized I was close to the familiar old oak tree where I first met Susie. That tree also meant I was almost home. I slowed to a walk as I approached the part of the trail next to Susie's tree. I'm not sure why I stopped, but I felt compelled to. I left the path and walked over to the trunk of the ancient oak tree. I circled around the base of the tree, hoping to see Susie pop out at me safe and sound. I needed to know she was okay. Instead of finding Susie, what I found still chills me to the core today. What I saw laying on the ground at the base of the trunk of the oak tree was the jack-o'-lantern bucket I had given to Susie. It was placed ever so nicely up against the tree, all of the contents still inside, with her bunny mask propped on the front of it. I was so confused and so creeped out that I left it there and got back up in the trail and didn't stop running until I got to my back door. This was without a doubt my worst Halloween ever. I felt real terror. It was not a good night for me that night. I slept restlessly and having nightmares over and over. I woke up in a cold sweat the next morning. I hoped I had dreamt the whole headstone in the woods nightmare. I went through the motions of the day, trying to keep my cool. At dusk, I decided to get brave and set out on my daily walk in the hopes of seeing Susie. I was sincerely hoping that she led me on that adventure to that creepy headstone site in the woods, just to scare me as a Halloween joke. I put my walking gear on, walked out the back door, made my way up through my backyard and up onto the familiar leafy woodsy path, and hurried my way to Susie's tree as quick as I could. I came to a halt as soon as I came to the oak tree. I made 2 full circles all the way around, calling her name even. The jack-o'-lantern still remained on the ground up against the tree base. The bunny mask was gone, though. Day after day, for months, I waited for Susie at that oak tree before I set out for my walks. One winter evening, I finally gave up searching for Susie. So sad, because I never knew what happened to her. My curiosity got the best of me one evening, though. I got out my laptop and searched for information on Susie Osborne and what may have happened to her. And was she the same Susie I had met? There were too many coincidences for it not to be her. After combing through tons of newspaper articles, I unfortunately, finally, found my answer. It turns out that on Halloween Day in 1907, Susie Osborne was out trick-or-treating by herself against the wishes of her parents. She then told them she was going with her best friend Sarah. This was a lie, of course. Susie wanted to be adventurous and go trick-or-treating all by herself. Apparently, after trick-or-treating was finished in her neighborhood, instead of going home, Susie thought it would be fun to go on an adventure alone in the woods, since it was Halloween after all. She placed her bag of candy up against that big oak tree and headed up the path, blindly, in the dark. Sweet little Susie, in her bunny costume, never made it home that Halloween night. She got lost in those woods. It was freezing cold that night, and her frilly little dress and tights were hardly enough to keep her warm, enough throughout the night. The first thing her parents found was the bag of candy by the oak tree. They searched unsuccessfully for days until they finally found her off the path, through the weeping willow tree and up the hilly path, and up onto the clearing where the enchanting maple tree thrived. At the base of the tree, they found their daughter Susie's tiny, frozen body, bunny mask still on, and curled up in a fetal position. Susie led me to that spot so that I could know what happened to her, so someone could find her again. She's lost over and over every day in some other dimension, and it breaks my heart. These are now Susie's woods. I still walk this trail daily so that Susie isn't lonely ever again. Even though I've never seen her since, I still speak to her and tell her she's not alone. I always tell her to rest in sweet peace and happy Halloween every day. I hope to see my friend again next Halloween. We're always up for an adventure. Happy Halloween, everyone. And don't forget, have respect for nature, the woods, its beauty, and its history, whether it be dark or light. We all have our scars. Even nature, too. I would like to give a heartfelt thank you to the special friends of the channel for your overwhelming generosity. If you would like to support the channel, the link is below in the description. Also, please send me your stories and poems to duchessofdarkness27@gmail.com. You can also find me on Instagram at duchess.ofdarkness and Twitter at duchessofdark_n2. I want to thank all my listeners for your kindness, your encouragement, and your support. It means the world to me. Thank you for joining me. Until next time.